Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, but if you're unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's fine. We do record the show as we are doing today, and it will be available for you to watch later at your convenience. I'll show you at the end of today's show where you can access all of our show recordings. Both the live show and the recordings are free and open to anyone to watch. So please do share with your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, anyone you think might be interested in any of the topics we have on NCompass Live. For those of you joining us not from Nebraska, the Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for libraries. So we provide services and training and resources and grants and databases for all types of libraries in the state. So we will have shows, so that we have shows on NCompass Live that are for all types of libraries. Public, academic, K-12, corrections, museums, archives, historical societies, blah, 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 blah. Really anything, really the only criteria is that it's something that to do with libraries. We bring in guest speakers from all across the country sometimes, and sometimes we have Nebraska Library Commission staff do presentations for us. And that is what we have this morning. Today is the last Wednesday of the month, so that means it is Pretty Sweet Tech Day. Yay! That is the once a month when Amanda Sweet, our technology innovation librarian. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
She joins us to talk about anything techie related. We sometimes have shows other times of the month that are tech focused as well, but you can always depend on the last Wednesday of the month. It will be Amanda here joining us to talk about something that is library tech related. And this month she's going to talk about Internet Librarian online conference now.
Yep.
That happened in October, correct?
You know, I had to think about that for a second
was,
too.
yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So last month, just a month ago, tell us some of the cool things she heard about and learned about at Internet Librarian. So this is a conference that previously was an in-person conference that I used to attend. I attended it for quite a few years in person, and Amanda did it as well. And they switched to virtual when the COVID-19 pandemic started, and decided to stick with it for this one.
Yeah. So Computers and Libraries is still in person in DC in March, and Internet Librarian is virtual.
No, virtual.
And it's too bad because I did like Monterey. Like if I had a choice, I would have gone Monterey over DC, but DC has really good red velvet cupcakes baked in weird people. Do it.
So,
yeah. Trade-offs.
Yeah. The previous Internet Librarian was always in the fall in California and Monterey, which is great.
Yep. Yeah.
And what's good about DC in the spring, depending on the time of year, you might have
cherry blossoms.
Cherry blossoms, yeah. So there's but so they're kind of companion conferences. I always thought of them as. Sometimes you'd see the same type presentations, East Coast, West Coast. I kind of like that it's kind of split the country in half. If you're in the outside of the country, you could go to Computers and Libraries. West, you can go to Internet Librarian. We're in the middle. We can go either way.
The flight rate is about the same either direction, so it gets
but
there.
Now this one is just virtual, so it doesn't matter. You can attend it from anywhere.
It's true.
And now today we'll hear about some of the cool things that we're at Internet Librarian.
Yeah. So if you weren't able to make it, they do still have a replay pass. That's the recordings are available through the end of the year.
Yep.
But you can also just listen to the recap from this session and check out a few of the links too. So it's up to you. Do what you gotta do what works for you. So in this session, I pulled out some of the different themes that kind of worked for what I do for emerging tech knowledge management. And this year I also went to KM World So Information Today also has a knowledge management conference that's in DC too.
Mm,
And I was lucky enough to be able to go to that one this year. So I had to like mentally separate what happened in KM World versus what happened at Internet Librarian, but there's
mm,
overlap. So
sure.
this year I also added a knowledge management tips and tricks track because I was paying more attention to that kind of thing this
Mm-hmm,
year.
mm-hmm,
And so in this session, I'm going to talk about how more libraries are starting to incorporate themselves in as a problem-solving space. So they're tackling issues like conservation, environment, the homelessness crisis, and it's stuff that libraries have been involved with, but now it's just being like coming more to the surface,
mm,
and it's just becoming more apparent that we're doing what we've been doing, but now we're just doing it more comprehensively. So now that we're rising that up to the surface, then that turns into how are we coming together and how can we start to share this information and share these resources in a knowledge hub? And
mm.
how can we start to share this stuff without duplicating resources and then give everyone access to the information that they need? And how is AI playing a role in all of this? Because totally is.
Of course.
And yeah. And then like in the AI bucket, I'll also talk about some of the other cool, fun tech stuff that came up during the conference because blockchain, virtual reality, augmented reality, it's all in the mix there. And then I'll talk about some of the practical training and tips and tricks that you can use to keep staff up and running with the new technologies and pay attention to the stuff that you might need right away, but then kind of keep stuff on the docket for just keep it on the radar for the next 5 years or so, just
Mm.
because strategic planning somehow magically turned into a 5-year thing. So it gets there.
Mhm, mhm,
And then, so now with all the different changes that are happening and how libraries are starting to shift focus on different things and how technology is opening up new opportunities to get the word out there about the library and the new features that the library has. I'll talk about some of the new tips and tools and tricks for rebranding and modernizing the library. Some libraries have actually gone entirely virtual. Some of them have gotten rid of their books. Some of them have, they've done some cool, different, sometimes some of it works, some of it doesn't. But we'll talk
mm,
about some ways that libraries are adapting and using new tools to. Some libraries actually did entire remote work reference staff too, because they wanted to lower like they didn't have as much in-person space and a lot of people were working from home anyway. So there were a few sessions about just remote work reference and it worked incredibly well, not surprisingly. And then we'll shift into how all of this change is happening, all this new stuff is happening. There were quite a few sessions about self-care, not burning out, and prioritizing wellness. So it was a whole thing. Burnout bad. Burnout very bad. You
yes,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Self-care, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll dig into first the problem solving hub. So I was actually moderating one of the tracks at Internet Librarian, and I'm not sure that I would have gone to this session if I hadn't been moderating it, but now that I've gone to it, I'm glad that I did. But this was the outdoor library joins the field, and from the title of it, I actually thought it was about baseball, which is why I didn't even really glance at it. But it was actually about a library merging with a local park space to encourage conservation. And then they
Mm,
started like expanding out the library programming and collection development around conservation and like parks and recreation. And they started doing like all these environmental programming sessions. So a lot of this session was about how he kind of worked together with all these different groups just to make this collaboration happen and how they're shifting the space of the library and building out that cool partnership to kind of change the way that the library tackles the conservation, environmental, and related problems. And after it, I was actually talking to him about if he was going to develop like a knowledge management platform that would share all the resources across the organizations that they're working with. And after that, he said, I haven't been planning it, but I am now. So, yeah.
Ah,
So,
light
yeah.
bulb.
So, knowledge management, it's going to happen. And then the next one was this is probably true in more libraries than just this one, but there's a increasing homeless population. And this
Mhm.
community social service teams, they were actually talking about a program that they started back in, it was a while ago. I think it was 2011, 2012.
Mm.
And so this has actually been kind of like a recap of how the program expanded and evolved and sustained over time. Because usually we hear about the projects that were just like maybe a year, like really fresh, a year or two old. So it was really cool to actually see how that changed and evolved and was actually sustainable that's been over 10 plus years, if it's been 2011 to 2020 or 2012.
Mm.
But it's how they actually brought on social workers. So they have social workers on staff to be able to support the homeless population or any population that's dealing with mental health or homelessness issues,
Mhm.
separate but overlapping issues. And so they were talking about how they do de-escalation training for their staff, and they were talking about how they kind of adjusted the type of staff members that they have on board. And then they talked about the different collaborations and resource referrals that they do to refer people over to housing support systems. And I've been doing a lot with affordable housing in the state. So that was just like that kind of drew me to that session. And I like seeing how the library got on board with being kind of like an anchor and a hub for the homeless population to go to, but then kind of like the plus and the negative signs that come along with that because it's not always easy. So that was a cool session.
Yeah. This thing a lot of libraries are doing, getting the social workers, and I think that's a great thing. And it totally works because we are um, where some of these people come to for help or
Yeah.
just a place to
Yeah.
sit and hang out and be, where they're not criticized or looked down
Yeah.
upon or anything generally. Yeah.
I know up the street, the Bennett Martin Library has
Hmm.
a,
Jim Lincoln.
yeah. Yeah. And like the Bennett Martin Library in Lincoln, they have like a big problem. I wouldn't even say it's a problem. It's just finding better ways to support the homeless population because that population is increasing, at least in like the Lincoln Omaha area too.
Hmm.
And I know like a lot of the bigger cities, the libraries that came out of Miami-Dade and then out of Seattle, like Seattle's notorious for the homeless population. I visit Seattle pretty often and like it's hard not to stumble across the giant tent city that's just in the middle of like this giant block radius thing. Like you go out of like one of the tourist areas and then just right across the street is just the tent city. And
Mm.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so this is kind of like another way that libraries are coming together to tackle those like big messy problems. And this third one is it was a cool approach called like he called it the problem-based librarianship. And I actually thought that it was going to be kind of like the ecosystem mapping stuff that I do,
Mm.
but it actually was about so I'll give the example of he brought up this really cool slide that was about robotics. And then he broke it down into the little fields that it takes to actually address robotics. So he had like a little bubble for sociology, then he had one for ethics and policy, and he talked about all the disciplines that are both expected and unexpected that have to come together to address the field of robotics. Because if you only have like like we mostly focus on the tech side and the hard skills of actually how do you create and build a robot, and then how do you implement that robotic solution in a business or organization. Like that's what we tend to focus on. But then we tend to forget about the anthropologists and sociologists and the humanities side that is making sure that the human computer interaction actually happens smoothly. And it makes sure that the social implications about the adoption of robotics actually puts people first instead of just focusing on the tech. And so it's sort of like he tried to break down the silos across disciplines and started to look at each field, like saying, why don't we have these groups talking together more? And I was like, it's a good point. I mean, you know, there probably somewhere out in the world, there probably are anthropologists that are talking to the tech people, but we don't think about it. Like I know like Tristan Harris who does like he does like ethics for technology, and he started tackling the social media crisis a while back. But they have people, they have anthropologists and sociologists on staff, and Google has anthropologists and sociologists on staff. But in the outside world, we never think about it.
Yeah.
So it's just like that problem-based librarianship brings that up to the surface and says, people are doing this. We need to build like an actual visual and start making it more apparent that these perspectives need to come together in different ways. So he did it. I do it for problem solving, for like addressing things like affordable housing, but he does it in an academic setting. And he does it for the actual disciplines and the trainings for students and libraries. So he does it with the actual fields of study, and then I do the ecosystem mapping for like the businesses, organizations, like after you get out of school. And yeah. So it wasn't what I expected, but it was, I guess, better than what I expected because it was like a new way of looking at different fields that I hadn't looked at it before. But then
Mm.
after he said it, it was like, yeah, that makes sense. But it's like kind of a new problem solving hub, but in the classroom and in the academic side. It was cool. So, and I didn't fancy up these slides at all because, yeah, I just didn't.
It's fine.
So now that you have this new way of thinking about these problem solving hubs and the new way that these libraries are coming together to do cool stuff and tackle big problems, we need a better way to start sharing information across organizations and sharing information within organizations. So, and within the library itself, so that people can find the information that they need and that the information and resources aren't duplicated 8 jillion times because we just didn't know that it existed in the first place. And like that happens all the time. So this top one is called Curated Intelligence. And that was from, I believe this one was Gary Price. But Gary
Mm.
is great at curating the resources, tools, and tips that will kind of help you find what you need to get. So this is the little sheet that Gary gave, and he just gives this cool little set of, it's a database of tools. And Perplexity, ever since I heard, I don't remember if it was Gary or Chad who mentioned it first, but Perplexity is like the new, it's like a chat GPT style tool that will actually cite the sources of where it came from.
Hmm.
And if you haven't seen Perplexity, you can say, Oh, I actually created an account so that I can store my searches.
Frogs.
Yep. So it'll summarize it, but then it'll also list the sources, and depending on
That's
what you
important.
search, yeah,
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 where did this info come from? Yeah. You can go
uh,
to the original. Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
ChatGPT didn't do this. Maybe it will in the future, but ChatGPT at the moment doesn't actually cite the sources, and it doesn't generate the related videos and images. And if you, I don't
This
have
is
the
what
pro,
happens when you have someone who's an actual like librarian
yep,
educator create one of
yeah,
these rather than just some tech bro whatever.
yeah. And so that's why I heart like Perplexity. And there are a few other tools on here that I wanted to pop up on here. So there was Notion is a good one. The internet has also been like pretty slow. It's getting there. It's
Hmm.
chugging along. So in terms of knowledge management, there's platforms that are available to the public, but then there's also platforms that are designed to gather the information for a specific team in your organization. And Notion is a great kind of project management tool and knowledge management tool for the projects that you're designing. So you can go through and kind of track who's doing which task and then put all of your documents and information in the same space. And Notion is not by far not the only tool that will do that, but it's a good one that people know about, and it's been like it's pretty affordably priced. But there's also, I mean, there's a jillion in one of these. Like if you look at project management software, there's a
Hmm.
jillion of them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So, but I wanted to pop that open just in case you hadn't actually seen PM software before and you were looking for a decent one. And I usually trust Gary's recommendations. So
Yeah, Gary's a
yeah,
regular with ITI.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So go Notion. But yeah, I'll also, I'm not sure if you actually have to be logged into the platform to get access to the link.
Mm.
So Krista, I'll put this into the chat and you can let me know if you're able to actually access it. And if you can,
Yeah,
I'll link it into the
the
slide
slide.
deck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll mention that to everyone that when the recording is available, the slide Amanda's slides will be with it as well. She'll send me a link to her Google Slides here.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens when I click on it. Well, I can get to his page, his Google Sites page. Yeah.
Okay, so if you can get to it, you don't need to be logged in. So I'll put the link to the
Mm.
there. So I linked it over there.
Perfect.
Cool. It is good to know that you don't have to be logged in to see that though.
Mhm. Yeah, you just gotta scroll down and there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I will close that. I'll wave goodbye to my frogs. I'll be back later. Oh, and Poe was the other one that I was going to, you have to sign up for this one to be able to use it. Otherwise, I would demonstrate it right now. I can't guarantee that I'll remember my password, but check out Poe to check out some different like pre-baked AI models that'll help you do different tasks. So it's worth looking at. So just check through his database. You'll find a bunch of cool stuff. And then, so in terms of knowledge management and actually putting all this stuff together, this was an example of how that looks in practice, this partnership portals for sustainable access. She talks about the way that they built the collaboration across the organizations, but then they built like a shared resource portal that puts all of the stuff from all those organizations together into a shared space. And that's what it's all about. So this is kind of like a what they learned and the best practices that they figured out from putting that all together. And then after this session, like after this virtual conference, I went over to KM World and I was like, they should just put all these conferences together because like the so much of what was in KM World also applies to Library Land because it was all about it was like the hardcore version of building out those collaborative portals and like knowledge hubs so that we could get everyone on the same page. And I was like, I'm sensing a crossover. And it's also really, really hard to like mentally separate just what happened at Internet Librarian with what I found at KM World, but I'm trying. So the last one I'll point out for Internet Librarian is um, we're all used to using the integrated library systems, the ILSs,
Mhm.
which is the way that we pull all of our resources together from our catalog over from another system, over from this system over here, and make it searchable and findable in the same spot so that both patrons and our in-house staff can find what we need. And so this one is from Marshall Breeding and he gave kind of like the actual tips and recommendations for different platforms that are on the rise and like the new features that are coming out in terms of library platforms. And he always comes up with like a little fun little title for stuff. So we are just delighting communities. And I think he also usually has a sheet that goes with it. So I'm going to do a quick search to see if we can get you a link. I'm going to search the actual title, library platforms. That got it. It really helps if I actually search in the right spot. So we'll see if here. Oh, he put it into the PowerPoint, which is also good.
Mhm.
But I have to check the sharing rules if we can share. Do you know if we can share the actual PowerPoint if the slides?
Um,
I don't
from within
remember.
the Internet Librarian, I don't know if they have any restrictions on that. I know, like, there is that the rewind, what they call it, where but you do have to pay to get access to like the recordings
Yeah.
to watch those. I think it would depend on. I don't know if they have any rules to their presenters about what they can do with their own stuff. Their own things, their own presentations, if they have that out somewhere else, or if they have to wait until after you said
Yeah.
rewind's good till December, right? It's the end of December.
Yeah, because I know they also put the speakers that put a presentation on in the platform, they make those
Mhm.
presentations available on the website at some point.
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you just look at you can see the previous conferences presentations there. Yeah.
but
I don't know if the
they
current one would be there yet, or yeah.
let's find out.
And depending on some of the topics, you may see some of these presentations get redone. They aren't just for
Yeah.
this event on NCompass Live. I do I do browse the agendas and see if there's anything interesting that might want to invite them to come on the show. So,
And it looks like the presentations are not on there yet. They might wait until after the
right.
replay. Yeah.
The replay pass,
Yeah.
yeah, they're at the bottom left there. The replay pass link is available right
Oh,
now. Yeah. But eventually they will be, and unless the presenters have them elsewhere on their own websites,
yeah, it
then
looks like through
yeah,
December 31st. So you might want to check back after December 31st and see if the presentation slides go up then, or just grab the replay pass and check out some
yeah,
sessions.
stuff now. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, I guess I should probably put the link to the replay pass, shouldn't I?
Yeah, we usually have that in the show description. I don't have this time. Yeah, we'll add that.
I'll pop it in here just for anyone who's looking at it. Otherwise, this same link should also get you to the main page so you can check for the speakers in this
Right.
the presentations in
See
this
who what the
conference section
what
later.
presentations were done. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, they'll get there. Anyway, so I went over kind of the knowledge management tips and tricks on here. You can also check out KM World, which is a shiny new conference that I just found.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe I didn't actually know that was a thing before. I should have just looked at the whole list of what they do, but whatever. But so the next thing is now that we went over the libraries as the problem-solving hubs, bringing all these people together and looking at problems in different ways and engaging with the community in different ways, and bringing all this together in the shared platform, we'll look at the role that AI is playing and how libraries can play a part in AI and other emerging tech. So in the land of emerging technology, like kind of the most common threads are artificial intelligence, um, mixed reality, then robotics, then we have drones, cloud technology, data science, and like GIS mapping and all this different stuff. And the most kind of fun and shiny stuff that's been popping up in all the conferences are artificial intelligence. Um, Lately, it's been all about generative AI, but I mean, there's other AI out in the world. I think in like future conferences, they're going to start looking at AI for automation and how AI can be incorporated to help librarians do their job better. But then there was like a whole big conversation about, so on here, I featured a lot of the slides that are talking about how AI is doing amazing, awesome, wonderful things. But in some
Mm-hmm.
of the keynote sessions and in the keynotes, they don't actually give the um, they don't always give the presentation slides or the recording, so it's harder to like refer back to it without watching the whole thing again.
Yeah, for the
But
keynotes, it's
yeah,
always different than the
yeah.
regular sessions. Yes.
So in those, they talked about more of the implications of AI on the field of library science. And they were
Mm-hmm.
talking about how, because when you really look at it, some of the tasks that librarians can do are becoming automated. Because I just pulled up the perplexity.ai and I put in a simple reference question and it quickly summarized it for me and cited the sources. And previously, that would have taken a librarian a lot longer to do. And you would get an email with a similar style reference question. But now, as more people learn about Perplexity AI, how many people are just going to go directly over to Perplexity instead of reaching out to a local library? And then how can the library start to we can't fight technology from happening. Once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's not going to electively crawl back inside the bag. Like that wouldn't be fun for anybody. So we look at the cool, amazing stuff that technology can do, but then we also have to look at the flip side of what is this actually going to do to our field? And this hasn't actually hit us yet, but it will. So, what are the other tasks that libraries can do to be able to go beyond just simple searches and go beyond? simple support. They're not everyone's going to adopt tools like Perplexity right away. Like we all have like a aging population that will barely even touch a computer. They're still going to go to the library for these questions instead of going to a computer because they don't trust the computer.
Mm.
But this starts like a whole new dialogue that says AI is just not a shiny new thing. But how can we create, like, people still want curated resources. People still want to be able to click open a link from a trusted source like the library to be able to find the information and resources they need. But now the library staff is going to be leveraging AI to curate some of those lists, but now we can do it better and faster. And if we curate the right things, then people are still going to go to the library first. But if we ignore this technology, then the library phases out. So, yeah, it's a stark warning, but it's there. And it's getting easier and easier to see the role of AI in librarianship, but it's also getting easier and easier to see how libraries can leverage to do their job better, to do content generation and build websites that look better than they were before. And like there was a session on using AI for web design, marketing, and social media so that we can build experiences that people actually really want to go to. And people don't just go to the library for books or simple searches. They go to the library as a community space. They go to the library to go to their local knitting circle so that they can meet up with their friends every week or every month. And they go to the library to go to their maker space so that they can start digging into this technology themselves. They go to the library to bring people together to address the problems that they care about. The library is rebranding and adjusting itself. So AI is a tool that can help that happen. And then we look at the sessions for upskilling the library staff so that we can choose which technology is happening. The Library 2.0 is the like another online training course that libraries can use to learn about ChatGPT. They did like a whole workshop series on what ChatGPT is all about and how to use it. They talk about the ethical implications, and there's a whole group of librarians that are coming together to to put the hive mind together to talk about this stuff. So
Good.
there's
Good.
groups out there that are tackling this already.
Mhm. We have a comment. Sherm, he's with us on he's Andrew Sherman. He's our IT person here at the library. Christian says AI is a great aid for computer programming.
True.
That's
To
something.
an extent, yeah. So Copilot is also a really popular AI tool, and Copilot is really good at simple repeat code.
Mm.
But like my brother's a software engineer, and we were just talking about Copilot a couple months ago, and he was saying that Copilot is amazing at the simple things like building out a database and doing simple SQL search queries that you do all the time. But when you
Makes
take
sense.
that code and then cut and paste it into a larger piece of code for like a larger piece of programming, sometimes the code doesn't cleanly mesh together with the other stuff that's already pre-existing. So
Mm.
you cut and paste a chunk into that larger project, and then it can either break the existing code, or AI doesn't always generate clean code. It generates code that functions, but it doesn't generate code that's necessarily best practices. And it generates code that doesn't necessarily mesh with the best practices of your individual organization. So if you are a beginner or an intermediate who doesn't know what to look for in your code, then Copilot looks like an amazing solution, or these code generating tools look like an amazing solution, and the product functions, but you have a hot, dirty mess of code that like a professional programmer would look at and spit on. So it's sort of like
Mm.
it works for some stuff, not for everything. And it probably will get better in the next 5 or 10 years. But
To always be wary of anything
yep,
AI. You
yep,
cannot trust any. There's been too many reports of when it gives wrong information out. Even we were talking about earlier, the quick answers you want.
yep.
You need
And
real people
yeah,
to be evaluating, is this actually the right answer? Is this actually
yeah,
the right site, the right item, place to get this
yeah.
information from?
And
Yeah.
the problem is people are saying there's a growing number of people saying we don't need to learn how to code. We can just go to these tools and it will do it for us. But then those people might go over there, generate the code, and then put it into a larger project, but then there might be a security issue that the AI tool didn't know about. Or it might be trained by a malicious actor who baked a security issue into it, and we wouldn't know.
Mm,
So, food for thought. AI is amazing, but look at it with shifty eyes. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
I agree with that. Yes. Anything AI. Yes.
yeah. And also I have used AI to generate some simple code. It is really good at databases. But in any case, if you look at track D, you'll also find like a whole bunch a bunch more sessions about um, virtual reality and augmented reality. As kind of a snapshot of what's in there, I can give a quick review. Yeah, da, 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 da. Oh, that was my session. So I talked about how to um, introduce emerging technology to through the library to support entrepreneurship, innovation, and the career search. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. But some of the highlights on here are, so this one talks about the using augmented reality in the library. There have been some sessions previously about this, but this one is about here. This one's specifically geared toward museums and learning institutions and how we can use augmented reality to kind of, and he gives a specific tool that he uses, which is why I pointed to this one. So this one talks about Empow AR, which is a tool that I actually hadn't heard of before. That's why it kind of caught my eye. But even if you don't check out the session, Google Empow AR, and you can start to learn more about the up and coming tool. And then there's another session that is about browser-based VR. This is not the only tool that will do browser-based VR, but it is kind of a cool way to learn about the basics. And if you didn't know that browser-based VR was a thing where you can actually interact with the virtual space on your desktop computer without actually going into a real virtual reality headset,
Mm-hmm.
now you know. And so I don't remember specifically which tool she talked about, but if you look at a tool called spatial.io,
Mm-hmm.
Spatial is a tool where you can build your own virtual space in your headset, but you can look at it through the headset, but you can also look at it on your browser.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
We did an NCompass Live about that previously. We had Chad come on,
yeah, yeah,
Chad Marion come on to do a session about this. If you look in our show archives, you can find a presentation we did about that.
right, yeah. Chat's awesome. I actually just saw him at Camworld the other week too.
Nice.
And then the other one that I'll point out is this one is also cool, not the one I was thinking of, but I just clicked on it and it is cool. But so San Jose State university has been building out virtual reality experiences to represent other cultures. And they actually just won an award for it. I cannot for the life of me remember what the name of the award was. I'd have to go on Anthony's LinkedIn to remind myself. And I don't feel like doing that right now. But it was cool. They won an award. Krista, I don't know if you know what the name of the award was.
Hmm.
I don't know.
No, I don't recall. Yeah. Um,
Doesn't matter. It was cool and shiny.
yeah.
I can ask him later. But so the one that I was actually looking for is Google XR Voices, and you'll be able to see like a little preview of a bunch of their stuff. XR Voices and SJSU should pull it up. But the one that I was looking for is apparently in a different track. But it was a session that I moderated about volumetric imaging. And it's basically talking about how the technology behind the hologram is actually getting closer and closer. So he was talking about the tools that we can use to build our own holograms. And that was another session that I moderated. And we had kind of a cool little discussion about like little Gartner's curve of adoption and talking about how far out we were for volumetric imaging. And it's probably within the next maybe 10 years or so that that's actually going to start getting cool. Let me just see if I can search volumetric. In no way am I going to recommend that your library start training staff on volumetric video capture right now, because this technology just isn't quite there yet, but it is super cool. So if you want to see a hint of how you can actually handle the start of a hologram, you can totally play with this though. So I pulled this open because he actually gave a specific tool, and that was DepthKit and the Formavision app. So he actually had people download the Formavision app, and that is a tool that you actually can use to start playing with volumetric video characters. And if you don't know what a volumetric video character or volumetric video character is, ask Perplexity. And it will tell you. I'd read it off, but it's more fun if you just go do it yourself. So to kind of wrap us out here, I'm just going to touch on a few of the different rebranding and modernizing techniques that came up. And then there's a listing of some of the, honestly, the take care of yourself too. You're probably going to have actually heard a lot of it before. It's just a reminder to actually like do it. So I'll wrap it up with that. So the rebranding and modernizing is, this session talked about the new and different ways that we're using gadgets and kind of connecting with our audiences in different ways. So it was the creating new pathways for library communities that actually talked about the all remote reference staff. And then they also talked about the um, like the hybrid environments and the ways that they basically just never went back to in person in some cases after COVID. And after they started doing more of like the virtual education, like virtual Zoom classes, virtual everything. And then they talked about some, oh, here's hoping here that he actually put his slides on here, but I don't think he actually did. Because he did kind of reference a lot of cool tools. Nope, he did not. So this is one that I'd actually have to rewatch it to be able to re-record a lot of the different tools. So dang it, I should have done that, but I did not. And then this next one was, if you have never heard of lean product design and development, MJ actually talked about improving the product development process. So he talked about sort of like a cool framework that you can use for lean product design. And lean product design, I used the lean product playbook. He used a tool out of the UK, which also has a really cool infographic. But it's basically how to design, test, and implement projects quickly and cost effectively. They use it in entrepreneurship and for startups and in business, but it also works really, really well in library land because libraries usually are short on budget and short on time. So it's better to be able to test out project ideas before they happen instead of writing like a really, really massive grant and then using that grant to test out if the project is actually worth doing.
Mm.
And so this one will say, instead of waiting until you get awarded like a X number of dollars and a grant, do this small mini project to make sure that writing this grant is even worth it. And then start getting people on board with the project idea before you even start, and start getting like an actual small prototype project out there to test out if it's viable or not. So I use this one. He uses, I actually liked his better, so I just need to actually get that. Da, 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 da. Product development. Here. Cool. MJ is always really good about putting his slides on there. His was this. So this is sort of the general process of, I'll try this. Krista, if you could see if this slide will open.
Yep, hang on.
You never know.
It's working on it. Yes,
Cool.
it did open the slides. Yep.
So they probably didn't put it on the front end of the site yet, but it's just,
You can get to them, yeah, because it's through
yeah,
feed loop. Yeah, yep.
yep.
But I was able to come up and with it. I did not sign up for anything or subscribe to it
Cool.
and pay for the access. No.
So part of modernizing is rethinking the way that we actually do our projects. Because a lot of the libraries that I talk to are saying, I need to wait for funding before I can find out before I can try this project. But the
Yeah.
lean product flips it, because half the time the grant isn't even worth it because the project could have been different. Or you're being asked to write a project plan and the exact steps and the people that you need to do it, but you haven't even tried it yet. So that's that. And then the last couple are about revamping how marketing works. So this one actually talks about using video content to get more people engaged in the library. I have a sneaking suspicion that I came shortly after the TikTok generation because TikTok is just lost on me.
Hmm.
But this session gave she gave some really cool TikTok snippets about her library, and her video editing was like really cool with it. She used like a stop motion style, so she would like pop in at different parts of the little library, and it was awesome. But she talked about how to do like short clips, like short video clips of your makerspace, or short video clips of your um like a the video, the production of a 3D printed octopi, or the production of like a
Hmm.
Captain America shield or something, and using that to get people into the library and pushing it out through Facebook Shorts or YouTube Shorts or whatever it happened to be. And I have a bunch of video editing tool recommendations. I have a whole guide if you're looking for it. So it's out there. And this all wraps up by saying that the strategic direction and planning of the library would need to adjust to be able to prioritize and change the process of how things are done. So if leadership isn't on board, then they probably wouldn't want to change the uh, implement lean product development to test out grant ideas. If leadership's not on board, it probably just won't happen. So this was about how you can change that, and different strategies that you can do to modernize and get up and growing. And I already talked a little bit about this, but take care of yourself, people. It's a thing, you know?
Self-care, yes,
Yep,
and with everything is um, always has been something important, I think. Um,
right. And
and
this also talked about
just
the safe,
to keep being reminded of it. Yeah.
right, yeah. And I also popped safety and security in the library, because if you don't feel physically safe in the library, then you're going to be stressed out anyway.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I will wrap it out there.
Mhm.
Um, there are links to a bunch of these different, you can go to the program schedule, and you can reach out to the people that actually gave these different talks.
Oh yeah.
And they're
Well, they're
always,
definitely willing to
yeah,
help, willing to chat.
yep,
Everyone wants to chat
yeah,
about what they presented on, definitely.
right, And so I will leave it at that. I'll give a minute or two if anyone has any questions, but otherwise I have to jump off for that.
Right. Yeah, I know you have another
Yeah,
meeting coming up.
yeah,
Yeah, nobody had anything yet. If anyone does want to ask anything right now, type it into your questions section right away. Amanda, if you send me your link to this,
yep,
my goal is, because we do have the holiday coming up, then we're closed the next 2 days. I want to get the recording up and out for everyone by the end of the day today. So, uh,
there.
cool. All right, I have the slides. We just have to make sure that GoToWebinar and YouTube work fast for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So if there are no questions, I am
Doesn't look
actually
like anybody
going
had
to,
any questions they did as right now. That is fine. Yeah. All
cool, then
right.
I
Well,
am going to duck
yeah.
out.
Thank you. Yeah. Hang on a sec. I'll pull presenter control back to my screen here. All right.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here today. And just a reminder, and I know at the beginning of this, I did my whole opening spiel that last Wednesday of every month, except December.
Yep.
That we will not be back with Amanda next in December because Christmas and New Year's Day both fall on Wednesdays, and they're both state holidays. Since we're a state agency, we are closed for all state holidays, state and federal holidays. So since we are closed, we're actually off for 2 weeks of NCompass Live. So if you look at our schedule, you will see December 25th and January 1st, no NCompass Live. So December 25th is the last Wednesday of December, but we're taking the day off for the holiday. So Amanda will actually be back on January 29th. The end of January. So look for her come at that. Don't know what the topic will be. We'll find out between now and then. So yeah, that will wrap it up for today's show. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you everyone for being here today. I did grab, yes, you have the main website for the Internet Librarian Conference. If you do want to purchase that replay pass to watch any of the recordings, they're available there through the end of December if you do want to do that. And I did look up, we were talking about the award that San Jose State University won. I did find it was the Anthem Awards, celebrating purpose and mission-driven work. And under the education, art, and culture category, awareness categories for nonprofit, there are, this is a list of all the winners that were voted on. These are the gold winners. They actually won the silver award. They're the silver winner under digital and innovative experiences. All right, so that is it for today's NCompass Live. The show is being recorded, and like I said, it'll be available by the end of the day today, since we do have the holiday coming up. I don't want anyone to have to wait. Our show archives go right here. This is our main page. Here we have all of our upcoming shows, but right underneath is a link to our archives. Everyone who attended today's show and registered for today's show will get an email from me letting you know when the recording is up and ready. It'll be at the top of the list here. Our most recent ones are always at the top here. There'll be a link to the recording of the show on our YouTube channel, and then a link to Amanda's slides, which I have the link already here over here. It will be available. If you don't know if we've done a show on any topics you're interested in, you can search our show archives. For example, she had mentioned the spatial for librarians that Chad Marin did. We did that. That was back in 2021. Might need to do an update of that, but we do have the recording for that available if you did want to learn more about spatial AR. But search for anything you're interested in here. See if we've done a show on it. Do be aware this is our full show archives going all the way back, and I'm not going to scroll all the way down because it's a giant list, as you can see, all the way going back to January 2009, which is when NCompass Live first premiered. So we've got 16 years worth of shows on here, but they all have an original broadcast date. So do pay attention to that date whenever you are watching any of our show recordings. Many of the shows will be fine to watch, stand the test of time, be perfectly, good, useful information, but some things will become old and outdated. Resources may change drastically. Links might be broken. People work at different places than when they presented for us. So just be aware of that. But as libraries do, we keep things for historical purposes. And as long as we have a place to host all of our recordings, which are all of our archives, which right now is the Library Commission's YouTube channel, we will keep these always up for you to watch. We are out on the social media. We do have a Facebook page for NCompass Live. If you like to use Facebook, give us a like over there. We post reminders for logging in for today's show. When the recording is available, we post on here. We also post out to the Nebraska Library Commission, has both Twitter and Instagram accounts that you can follow us as well. We use a little hashtag of NComp Live for our NCompass Live show, and Pretty Sweet Tech for when it's an announcement or post about Amanda's Pretty Sweet Tech sessions. All right, so that wraps up for NCompass Live. But one last thing I want to mention, which you may have seen here as I went past it, a little reminder that a Big Talk from Small Libraries, the call for speakers for Big Talk from Small Libraries is open. I'll pop over here. This is our annual online conference that we do. It's always the last Friday in February. And we are looking for presenters. The call for speakers is open until December 13th. This is sponsored by the Nebraska Library Commission and the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. All of our presenters are from libraries who have an FTE or population served of 10,000 or less. So if you are one of those libraries or a library in that situation, or you know of one that has something cool to share, please submit a proposal or send them over to submit a proposal for us. You can watch the recordings and see our previous conferences we've done to see what kind of things and what kind of libraries, from what libraries we have available that come on to Big Talk. So please do submit your proposals so we can share the cool thing you're doing at your library. All right, so next week on NCompass Live, to librarianship and beyond. What's it like being a corporate librarian? Emily Nimsicott will be joining us. She's a digital librarian with a Post-it PBC Corporation. And she's going to talk about corporate librarianship. So is that something you were ever might be interested in pursuing, or just want to know what it's all about? Join us next week to hear from Emily on that. And do sign up for our other shows. We've got everything booked going even into January of 2025. So please sign up for any of our other upcoming shows. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And hopefully we'll see you all on a future episode of NCompass Live. Bye.